Afternoon. The Arts Council for Monterey County welcomes you to our weekly online segment, Artist Spotlight. I am Karen Lee Garcia, Programs Director, and today I am pleased to welcome local poet, nonfiction writer, and teacher, Patrice Vecchione. Patrice's new book, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. So Patrice Vecchione's new book is My Shouting, Shattered, Whispering Voice, a guide to writing poetry and speaking your truth. And Kirkus Reviews called the book a once impassioned and practical poetic advice. Marcelo Hernandez Castillo said it should be required reading for beginning writers, as well as those who have been writing for decades. Ellen Bass called it more than a guide to writing poetry. It is an act of generosity and empathy, a helping hand to anyone who dreams of telling their truth through words on a page. Patrice is the editor of several highly acclaimed anthologies for young adults. Most recently, Ink Knows No Borders, Poems of the Immigrant and Refugee Experience, Writing in the Spiritual Life, and Step into Nature, Nurturing Imagination and Spirit in Everyday Life, and as well as 2 collections of poetry. For many years, Vecchione has taught poetry and creative writing to young people through her programs, The Heart of the Word, Poetry and the Imagination. She's also a columnist for her local daily paper, the Monterey Herald, and Patrice offers writing workshops for adults and children through her program, The Heart of the Word. Thank you so much for being with us today, Patrice. Welcome to our Artist Spotlight.
How good to be here.
Yes. So wanted to start the conversation off how we start most weeks, is to talk about the change that's going on in the world and how you've been affected by that. I know that in February, we connected because you were one of our guest judges for Poetry Out Loud. And then a couple weeks later, you had, several book launches and happening in the local area that you had to, transition. So let's talk about that. Your canceled plans and how you moved through that.
So I was scheduled to go to the Tucson Festival of Books in the middle of March. And the day before I was leaving, I had all the reservations. That was the first cancellation that I had. And I had a whole book tour scheduled for this book, and every one of those live events, in-person events, got canceled.
Right.
I was supposed to be at Bookshop Santa Cruz the day the publication date, which was the 31st of March, but Bookshop was wonderful, and we did an alternative event, and so everything is moved to Zoom.
Right.
My workshops, my writing retreat, a lot of income lost for me personally, as so many people have had that happen. And so I've transitioned to Zoom and other, like Facebook Live and other online platforms. And what's amazing to me is how well they work.
Right. I believe your book tour for Santa Cruz was actually one of the first events I attended. I came on kind of late towards the end, but I look at all the people that are on here. This is wonderful. And perhaps you were able to tap into even more people coming on live through your Zoom than that would maybe have been able to even fit into the bookstore. I'm not sure of the capacity, but I was very impressed. And then of course I just keep seeing, rapid fire all of your posts and emails. So you have a lot going on. And so you did mention, early on in your writing, that you were walking through COVID and the need for journaling. And, how has that helped you through this time?
I don't think I would resemble sane without having an ability to be in nature. For one thing, I have my garden where it's not a big, I live on, Delray Oaks, a small piece of land. It's just a little backyard, but my hands are in the dirt pretty much every day right now. And I have a foot injury, so I can't walk as much as I would like, but I go out to Fort Ord or to Jack's Peak and I walk 3 to 4 miles every other day, basically. And it has helped me to expand my creativity, to realize that the problems we're suffering as a country and as a world, there's still beauty. We live, and those of us on the Central Coast, we're so lucky. We live in the lap of beauty,
right,
and abundance. The sticky monkey flowers that were out in April at Fort Ord, they didn't know anything about COVID.
Right.
The bobcat that I stood staring at, or the bluebirds I got to visit with yesterday, they don't know about COVID. So being in nature expands creativity, and it expands our sense of what is real and what is true.
Mm-hmm. So there's been, the combination of being in nature and obviously your writing, but you have other forms of creativity. I'll just share a couple of the images. So do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, so this is a hand-stitched quilt that belongs to my mother-in-law, and it was in great disrepair. There were a lot of missing patches. And so when I look at it now, I can't tell which are the ones from about 1840 and which are the ones from 2020.
From 1840, wow.
Yeah,
that is
very old. It was a friend, belonged to the mother-in-law, the grandmother-in-law of a friend of hers.
Oh my goodness.
And so I worked on this. I've had it for 2 years. My mother-in-law was incredibly patient, though she had no choice. So I spent about 2 months working on this quilt and finishing it, and I gave it to her for her birthday a couple weeks ago. And when you hand stitch, you can both be in the present and in your breath, and then you can also be thinking of other things, but you keep coming back.
Mm-hmm.
You keep coming back. And I thought, there was another woman, and I looked at her stitches. They were beautiful. They were tiny stitches, much nicer than my stitches. She was 17 years old when she made this.
Oh my goodness.
And I thought, she got through her hardship, whatever it was. I'm going to do my best to get through mine. One stitch or one step in nature at a time.
At a time. That's a beautiful reminder. And then here's another image with a similar idea too.
Yep. So there's way more creativity in this piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's an old skirt. The center of that is an old skirt that doesn't fit me or didn't fit me anymore. And so I cut it up, and I have made about 7 or 8 of these pieces, and they're on my living room wall right now.
They're beautiful. They are gorgeous.
Thank you. So, it's like we need to come up with solutions to a lot of the problems we have right now. Our problems with COVID, our huge issues that maybe as a country we're finally willing to face, our racism as Americans, and the large problem that we're facing, the whole world is facing, of global warming. We need creativity. When I focus on something small like this, it grows my creativity. Mm-hmm. And look, this is nothing. There's no money involved here. This is,
this is just for you.
It's just for me.
Right.
And I think we don't do enough of that. Mm-hmm. To do something that's just for us. Just for ourselves.
I agree. I'm personally always looking for ways to do creative things for myself. It can be hard. It can be difficult.
But it helps us be better people.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to share this next image too, because it's along the same theme, back to nature.
There's a dahlia, my first dahlia. I never knew until a month ago why my dahlias never bloomed. It's because there are little worms that get in there. I never had time before this to separate the leaves around the forming bud to see the little worm in there.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I shouldn't admit it, but I did get extreme pleasure each time I found a worm and I squished it.
You don't
Knowing
want
that
to
I
tell
was
that
going
to
to
my
have,
daughter. She'd be very upset.
did she like that too?
She does. She likes to save all the little everything, the ants and the worms and everything. So
Oh, well, I admire
that
that.
is so poetic right there. I mean, just to, saying you had that time to go leaf by leaf, digging in to see, what is affecting this.
Yeah.
And then with this last image here, I'm going to share.
And that's Fort Ord. That's
Yeah, I
Trail
spoke to that.
70.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend Trail 70 is my favorite trail. I recommend it to anybody. It's right off of Parker Flats Road.
So we'll see you there walking.
Yeah.
A couple days a week.
Yeah. I'll look for you next time I'm out there, Karen.
Definitely. So this next image, you're going to share a little bit more about your work in the public schools as a teacher, and maybe share a couple poems with us too.
I teach poetry at Captain Cooper School. These are some of the students there. They were listening to fellow students read their poems in, I think it was November. And here's a poem by fifth grader, excuse me, named Sophia. It's called Where It Mostly Hurts. I'm afraid of happiness. It's not what you think it is. Happiness hurts you all the time. Happiness leaves us scarred in that spot. I never trust happiness. It never trusts me.
Mm.
Pretty deep there, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
And this is another fifth grader. I brought in a box that my grandfather had given me, or my father had given me many years ago. And I showed it to the children. And this is what Scarlett wrote. It's called The Story. Inside my box are my memories. Not just any memories, but the important ones. Sad, happy, and mad. Inside the box, I have stories of each memory, what I felt and what it was like. That box contains the story of my life. It started the day I was born, and to this day, it is still going. When will my story end? That will be the day I die. When I pass away, someone will tell my story, and someone else will start their story. When it ends, it continues. Story after story. No one knows when their story will end, but when it does, everyone in this room will have their own story that someone else is telling.
Amazing.
Isn't it?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Are you going to have an opportunity to work with those students again in the fall?
I hope so. I don't know what school's going to look like in the fall.
Right.
I've taught
Right.
at Captain Cooper for, I think, 12 years now.
Oh my goodness. I hope you'll be returning.
Me too.
Yeah, and that just makes a segue just a little bit into your teaching. I know you're teaching at CSUMB, and what are the plans? What has been happening right now? What courses have you been teaching, and what's the plan for the fall?
So I just finished a journal writing course this is through the OLLI program, the Osher Lifelong Learning Program at CSUMB. And in the fall, I'll be teaching a 1 Saturday a month workshop called Write the Morning Away. And people can go to the CSUMB website to find out more about that. Enrollment opens in August. And I have just completed a series of 5-week classes. On the 1st of August, I'll be doing a 1 morning Zoom class. And that's open enrollment. And I'm not sure what else I'm going to do, but I will be doing a multimedia show at Bookshop Santa Cruz about my book and about expanding your own creativity. And that will be on the 21st of July.
Wonderful. And then you also have another workshop series, or not a series, it's a one-off workshop at the beginning of August. Is that
Right.
you were mentioning on August 1st?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's called Finding Your Words for Now. So we need our words for now. And information about that is at my website, which is just patricevecchione.com.
Wonderful. We'll be sure to put that in the Facebook feed.
Great.
Thank you. I do also want to tell us more about your book.
Oh, thank you for asking.
It's so beautiful. I just love, actually, could you share a little bit about the cover?
I certainly could. I had a different cover.
Oh.
And I did not like the cover. And I was a pain in the tuchus of my publisher. I hope they still love me. And this image of the bird was part of Seven Stories Press, is my publisher. They're in Lower Manhattan. And that was part of their holiday greeting card. And I said, could you make a cover using that bird? And they made this incredible cover. I just love it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, they did a really good job. And I don't regret being difficult, but I don't want it to be too difficult. So, I started writing poetry when I was in high school. And poetry saved my life. There's really no other way for me to put it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a difficult childhood, alcoholism, and my father was a very angry man. And I found that when I wrote, I could say what was true for me. I didn't have to show it to anybody, and nobody would tell me I was wrong. My father wouldn't tell me I was an idiot. Mm. It's just the paper would hold it, and it was secure there. And that's where my teaching grew out of. When I was 18 years old, I started teaching poetry to children. I began volunteering at a Galt school in Santa Cruz. And I have done that. I'm 62, almost 63 now. That has been my primary source of income, because you don't get rich writing books unless you get very famous.
Right.
Don't get rich teaching poetry to kids either, but I was never interested in getting rich, just in making a life. This is a book in 5 sections. The first section talks about things like how to listen and the mind of the writer. We talk about inspiration and what intuition is. The second section of the book starts looking more closely about poetry and creativity, and we talk about the 5 senses and what defines you. I have a chapter called Responding to a Complicated World, which is, of course, exactly what we're living in.
So, what chapter is that?
That's chapter 14. Responding to a Complicated World. And I start out, I say, writing about something that's unsettled you is a great way to come to grips with it and to understand it better. Whether it's positive, a kiss that you didn't anticipate, or negative, witnessing a friend's mistreatment. Writing about it can give you a way to process your experience.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Isn't it? Yeah. And then the middle section of the book is a collection of 25 writing ideas. So all kinds of things. We look at a work by a friend of mine, the poet Gabriela Gutierrez y Mus, and writes a poem about the hands of workers who are waiting outside of Home Depot to get hired for the day laborers. We look at the work of a poet named Sophia Elhilo, and she writes 2 poems in one. Then there's talk about the adjective, the good parts of the adjective and the bad parts of the adjective. And the book looks at memorization, how important that is. And then the book moves into more practical things, like if you want to publish your work or if you want to read your work in public, how to go about doing those things and how to deal with rejection, because that's part of the deal.
Right. Now I saw that and I was like, that is such an awesome part to put in a book, like this, because some people, you start writing and if you have an interest, well, what do you do next? Like you said, how do you handle rejection? So that this is amazing. I think every high school student should have this book. I think it's really important. So what is now? Well, and we've already heard, what's been the response. Has there been anything that has kind of surprised you, or anything you want to share about feedback from your book?
I've gotten more emails, more Facebook comments, more response, because I think in a way the book was prescient. It was as if the book knew what was coming up, which of course we didn't know, neither I nor my book. But it's a perfect book for right now, to find solace and to be less I suffer from anxiety. I have for my whole life. So one reason I write is to calm those demons, to help myself feel less fearful. This is my current journal. And if you look inside here, you can see I am a sloppy writer. But it doesn't matter, because what's in that notebook is only for me. Nobody else can see that.
That's right. It's important to have that outlet.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to remember to use, journaling and writing as a source of, creativity and expression, like you said, anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
It always feels so good to just write it down and kind of close the book and come back to it later, So.
Yeah, because when you close that book, you can leave that experience behind to some degree.
Exactly.
So do you write at a particular time of day, or how do you do it?
I try to in the mornings, but it's rough. With life right now, it's rough. So
because you're homeschooling your daughter, right?
Exactly. Or just trying to keep her engaged now through the summer. But I'm working on a morning routine. I have a friend who's helping me with that. So that's good.
Maybe she needs a journal too. Your daughter,
Yeah, she has one. She's actually having this conversation with you is reminding me how important it is to keep up those writing prompts, and it actually reminds me that if those people are interested in signing up for your e-news, your mailing list, they receive.
So what I do is I send out a mailer on average once a month, and I'm starting a new thing this month on Sunday, where every mailer is going to have a writing prompt.
Right.
And that will be appropriate for, for people for sure, high school on up. And some of them appropriate for, your daughter's 8, is that right?
9.
So appropriate for children also. So if you're interested in signing up for that list, every month you'll get a writing prompt.
That's amazing. That I do encourage everyone to sign up for your mailing list. And what else is next for you? I know there were some big plans that had to be put on hold, but what else is, on the horizon for you right now?
Well, I'm going to do something for me that I've never done, which is I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to take this fall, I'm probably only going to teach a little bit, and I only have one more class I'm teaching this summer. I have laundry I haven't put away in 2 or 3 years, shirts that I just haven't gotten to wear because they're not ironed.
Right.
I have papers, if you could see the whole of my office, papers stacked I haven't had. And also, I just want to sit and write just to write. I was going to go to Italy this fall to work on a book that my publisher is interested in about solitude and art and the importance of creativity and the work of Piero della Francesca, one of my favorite artists. But that trip is clearly not happening.
Right.
They won't even let Americans into the EU.
But maybe when the borders open, you can revisit that trip again.
I will definitely. I put the money aside, so I will definitely go back. But I'm going to take some time to just pull out my notebook and see what's there.
Well, that is amazing. I am so happy for you.
Thank you.
Anytime that, an artist has time to actually just sit and create, it's so important because these, this is what comes out of it.
That's right. That's right.
So thank you so much. And where can we find you online? You mentioned your website, but where else are you on social media?
So I'm on Facebook, where I'm pretty active. So friend me on Facebook if you'd like to connect. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, where I'm not so active. How much can we juggle?
Right.
There's my website. My book is available anywhere books are sold. Locally, I suggest Pilgrim's Way. They're a fabulous independent bookstore in Monterey. And in Santa Cruz, Bookshop Santa Cruz, fabulous. Bookshop Santa Cruz is my home away from home. I think of my house to their front door as a long driveway, and I haven't been there in a long while.
Right. You need to at least go drive by the street.
I should at least do that. They're
It's
open
a nice drive.
now. They're open, so we can actually, wearing masks, we can go inside Bookshop Santa Cruz again.
That's good. That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate everything that you've shared with us, and I look forward to connecting with you more online. And thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you to the Arts Council. Happy to be here.
Thank you. And so please join us next week at Wednesday at noon for our next Artist Spotlight. And if you want to look more into what else the Arts Council is offering, please feel free to visit us at www.artsornc.org. Thank you and have a great afternoon.